Welcome back, BeInCrypto. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at Ethereum to Bitcoin on the Bittrex chart. We're going to more specifically be focusing in on a couple of things. We're starting to notice a descending fractal forming on Ethereum, as well as some other interesting things to be shown on the charts. If you guys have invested in Ethereum or are planning on investing in Ethereum, definitely stick around watching to the end of today's video to really capture all the analysis and charting we are going to be doing today. Otherwise, if you guys are new to the channel, definitely make sure to subscribe, turn on post notifications, leave a giant thumbs up, and let's jump into today's episode. Once again, I want to give a huge shout out to our continued sponsor here at BeInCrypto, STORMGAIN. Basically, guys, instead of holding your money in a worthless wallet on cryptocurrency, you can store it here on STORMGAIN and get actually 10% interest on your crypto deposits. It's pretty awesome. Definitely check them out. They're the first link in the description. You can see they hold a ton of different cryptocurrencies: Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Ripple, Litecoin. And this basically tells you why you should be investing into STORMGAIN. Multiplier up to 100 times, lowest fees, and they have a demo account. It's awesome. They have it on the App Store as well as the Google Play Store, so I highly recommend you check them out. They do give news and updates to what's happening on STORMGAIN as well. Otherwise, let's move on to the rest of today's video. So as you guys can see, we are currently on the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart on the Bittrex exchange on the weekly charts, and you'll notice a couple of interesting things we've been tracking. Now, please do ignore these sideways like lines. They will make more sense as we approach the daily and the 4-hour charts. But in regards to some long-term analysis, you can see a couple of things of some interesting patterns that are forming. Notice recently we've been seeing a descending fractal or a descending channel forming on Ethereum's weekly, which does hold some quite interesting news. Basically, you can see also, if I extend us outwards to the weekly back in all the way into 2016, this is 2015, you'll notice we do have these bottoms here. Now, I don't think it's likely that we're going to be retesting this low ultimately because Ethereum's been around for so long, but we are seemingly hitting some sort of resistance right now on our weekly charts within this descending fractal right here. You can see we've ever so much risen to the top of the downtrend, and you can see with numerous attempts we've pretty much been breaking bearish from the downtrend. So one can assume that potentially in the short term we could see a short-term retracement lower, eventually retesting what could be the bottom of this down support, and then potentially heading higher up. Now, ultimately, we could also, with the rest of the market, if the market proves to confirm a breakout to the upside, if we see any sort of confirmation that can close a candle above here on the weekly, we could be due for a rise to the upside. Notice how on Ethereum's to Bitcoin, you can see that we have had wicks in the past that have closed above or have started with the weekly above the downtrend, but ultimately closed below the downtrend. Now, if we can see a candle actually rise up and close above here, we would ultimately be expecting to see a rise, a significant price range of up to around this level, if not the top of the high-low MMA, which is right there. Now, to show you guys percentage gains, just a really quick price range, we can see anywhere from a 70% rise to up to 120% gain. Now, this is all dependent on whether or not we can break this resistance, and this is an opportunity. The fact that we're so undervalued and below what appears to be our high-low MMA gives us plenty of support to move up higher. You also notice that we're fairly low in the RSI, trading at about 40. Does give us plenty of room up to 70 before we enter overbought on the relative strength indicators. So there's plenty of room for us to head up higher, and we do look really well on the weekly. It's really just dependent on whether or not we can break bullish through here. Now, what do these lines over here represent? Well, as we zoom into the daily, you'll see how they're starting to make more sense. Notice right now that you can see each one of these is in reference to what appears to be a downtrend, some sort of descending movement on the price range as well. You can see right here, we go in a descending triangle, we break bullish. Notice again, and we could do these for a couple of them, descending triangle right here, break bullish. This is a longer downtrend. You can pretty much see what I am referring to, and then we break bullish at the end of them. So all these break bullish. You can see right now we have another downtrend. This was an even longer one that eventually breaks bullish and moves up. But notice one thing that's for certain is every time we end up touching the top, we consolidate, we hang out at the top, and we break downwards. So unfortunately, we are currently hanging out at the top of what appears to be the daily charts. You can see that we are hanging out at the top here. We're testing the high-low MMA once again, which is an indication that we could be seeing another retracement lower. We could be anticipating, similar to previous patterns, a retracement like this back down, and then expect to see another bullish break to the upside. This is very similar to what we've been seeing previously in all the other patterns. So ultimately, we could be expecting to see the same movement happen within here. Another thing to notice is on the weekly charts, we tend to end the downtrend around December or January. You can see the end of this is around January, and then we see this immediate break to the upside. Now focus on this downtrend that we saw in 2017 that ended around January on the weekly, which then ended in a break to the upside. And this pattern keeps continuing on the weekly chart. You can see the next one ends in December of 2017, then we break to the upside. We have another downtrend in December of 2018, then we break. This was a small break to the upside, but now you can see this pattern continues, and if this keeps continuing, we should see another break to the upside around December or January, which isn't really that far away. It's another month or couple of days into December, and then another month into January. So we are expecting to see some sort of reference to previous breakouts in the past on Ethereum's chart. Now moving on to another thing to check out is if we zoom into the 4-hour, you can see why exactly we're referring to this. Notice how on the 4-hour you can see this is very short term. We are interchanged or intertangled with the high-low MMA. You can see we are at the top of the downtrend, and we are ultimately expecting to see some sort of retracement lower. We do have quite a bit of room to head lower. It would be a small drop, but there is a pretty big amount of room. This is actually, it's about a 35% drop ultimately, so we could be anticipating some long-term downtrend. Now I don't want to say there's any revealing signs of a bullish breakout to the upside, because ultimately I don't think there is a massive run, but we do have to hold out on this, that in fact in the short term a small retracement would ultimately help this coin inevitably break to the upside if indeed we do see some sort of confirmation above this downtrend, and that's merely what we're waiting on for. Even on the weekly, you can see here, which ultimately looks the best to me. When I look at the weekly on Ethereum, you can see that we're really undervalued and below that high-low MMA. We're really waiting for confirmation, some sort of upswing that would ultimately send us up to retesting the high-low MMA, ending up back in a more neutral price range, and then we would ultimately see about a 50, I believe it was a 50 to 70% gain in the coin, which is 50 to or 70 to 120%, even higher. Now if we do decide to head lower, which is definitely a big possibility since we are testing the top of this resistance right here, we could fall lower, potentially retesting this price range down here. This would open us up to a 200 to 285% gain. Now, not to be extremely bullish, but these are expected prices. This can definitely happen if indeed we do see retracement lower and then an eventual break above this resistance right here. Now, this is not going to happen anytime in the short term. Don't expect it to happen tomorrow or the following. We're merely just waiting on a confirmation. It could take a couple of days, if not a couple of weeks, before we see any significant sign of a break to the upside, above here. If the other coins, altcoins, prove to be worthy and we do decide to see an upswing to the upside, we could then, ultimately expect to see a very, very, very nice return on our investment. Otherwise, if you guys are new to the channel, definitely make sure to subscribe, turn on post notifications. If you want to know more about this technical analysis on Ethereum and Bitcoin on the Bittrex chart, that goes very in-depth, definitely make sure to check out the article posted in the description down below. It's the second link that will bring you to our BeInCrypto article. Definitely check that out. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.